Imagine an enemy so fast and unpredictable that entire kingdoms panicked before a single sword was drawn. That was the terrifying reality of the Vikings. Their greatest weapon wasn't their axes or their fearsome reputation. It was a brilliant battle strategy that made them nearly impossible to stop. While most medieval armies relied on slow-moving troops and expected battles to happen on open fields, the Vikings completely changed the rules of warfare. Their secret was speed, surprise, and absolute control over where and when they fought. At the heart of this strategy were their incredible longships. These sleek, lightweight vessels could sail across the open ocean, navigate shallow rivers, and even be dragged across land. This allowed Viking warriors to strike places no one believed were reachable, turning rivers into highways and coastlines into vulnerable targets. Unlike traditional armies, Vikings didn't march for weeks before attacking. They could appear without warning at dawn, land within minutes, and launch a raid before defenders even understood what was happening. Their longships needed very little water, allowing them to travel deep inland through rivers where larger ships could never go. If necessary, entire crews would lift the ships over short stretches of land to reach another river, opening attack routes that seemed impossible. Every journey was carefully planned. Viking scouts gathered information about coastlines, rivers, tides, and enemy defenses long before a raid began. They knew exactly where to land, where to escape, and how to avoid strong fortifications. Their speed wasn't accidental. It was the result of careful preparation, teamwork, and unmatched mobility. When battle finally came, the Vikings fought with remarkable discipline. They formed powerful shield walls, locking their shields together into a moving barrier that protected every warrior. Instead of fighting as individuals, they moved as one coordinated unit, advancing steadily while defending one another. If an opening appeared, warriors armed with axes and spears struck quickly before returning safely behind the shield wall. Every movement was organized, every attack deliberate. But the Vikings understood that fear itself could become a weapon. They often approached in complete silence, using morning fog, hidden rivers, and unexpected coastlines to conceal their arrival. By the time lookouts spotted the dragon-headed ships emerging from the mist, panic had already begun. Entire villages fled before a battle even started, and kings across Europe struggled to predict where the next attack would come from. Their most terrifying trick was refusing to fight where the enemy expected. Instead of charging directly at heavily defended castles, they searched for hidden rivers, narrow waterways, or unguarded beaches. Their lightweight ships allowed them to bypass strong defenses and suddenly appear behind enemy positions. While defenders prepared for one attack, another Viking force landed somewhere completely different. Sometimes they split into smaller groups, creating confusion across entire regions. Enemy commanders received conflicting reports from every direction, never knowing where to send their soldiers. Many battles were won, not because the Vikings had larger armies, but because their enemies were already confused before the fighting even began. European armies struggled to respond because they followed traditional rules of warfare. Heavy armor slowed them down, supply wagons limited their movement, and large armies required time to organize. The Vikings exploited every weakness. They struck quickly, disappeared into forests or rivers, attacked supply lines instead of fortified castles, and forced exhausted enemies to chase them across difficult terrain. They chose battlefields carefully, often taking higher ground or forcing opponents into unfavorable positions. Their victories came from mobility, planning, and adaptability rather than brute force alone. They understood that the smartest battle was the one fought on their own terms. Behind every successful raid was careful planning. Viking leaders studied maps, rivers, weather, and escape routes before launching an attack. Fleets often divided into smaller groups, using different routes to surround their enemies or distract defenders. While one force attracted attention along the coast, another quietly moved through hidden waterways or forests to strike from behind. By the time defenders realized what was happening, their formations had already collapsed. The Vikings mastered not only the sea, but also the landscapes of Europe, turning rivers, forests, and coastlines into powerful tactical advantages. Their greatest battle trick was never a secret weapon. It was the perfect combination of planning, speed, surprise, discipline, and teamwork. Over time, the Vikings became known for far more than warfare. Their longships connected distant lands through trade, exploration, and settlement. The same mobility that made them feared warriors also made them successful merchants and explorers who reached places few Europeans had ever seen. Their methods of planning, coordination, and adaptability influenced military thinking for centuries. Even today, historians admire how a relatively small population challenged some of Europe's most powerful kingdoms through intelligence rather than overwhelming numbers. The Viking battle trick that terrified Europe wasn't simply about fighting harder. It was about thinking faster, moving smarter, and always staying one step ahead of the enemy. More than 1,000 years later, their legacy remains a powerful reminder that preparation, innovation, teamwork, and adaptability can overcome even the strongest opponents.